Hi, Lori. I want to introduce Lori, who has been working with me now for almost an entire year. We began in January or February of 2020 and went through the whole pandemic together. And now she's coming up almost to the very end of her third round of the seasonal mentorship program. So, Lori, just tell us, where were you when you started the program? Give us a description of what was going on in your life, your practice, if you were practicing meditation, etc.
Okay. When I first got the invitation from Nikki online, just sort of arbitrarily, it popped up in my email to join this class. It just hit me that I needed what Nikki was offering. And I was at a place where I work for an author and I was on book tour for several months of the year, which was these the grueling 24-hour-a-day schedules. I wasn't taking care of myself nutritionally, even though I understood what I needed to do. My practice was the last thing that happened because I was so tired at the end of the day. I would think I was going to get on my mat and then I would just go to sleep. And work took first precedent over everything. And I knew I needed to change that. So I reached out and decided I was going to start this. And then lo and behold, the pandemic started, and it was truly the best decision I made because it really kept me whole. It really put me back together. I wouldn't say it kept me whole. I was sort of falling apart, and it really put me back together these last 3 classes. In the beginning, I was still working really hard and we were trying to fit in classes. But then once I was able to clear my schedule, which was part of an intention from the class, that I was going to really think about my priorities and think about what I was doing, I then began to get to the mat maybe 20 minutes a day. And I started to think, which for me was always, oh, if it's not an hour and a half, it's not a class. But I started to realize that 20 minutes a day was really good for me, considering everything else that was going on. And then I think a really big thing that happened, well, 2 big things that happened was the Ayurvedic information that I took in from Nikki's instruction and the pranayama instruction really were game changers for me. Because suddenly I was reconnecting with my body, I was reconnecting with my breath. I wasn't living outside of myself in this sort of frantic running around way. I was constantly reminded of what my body needed to heal, when I needed to slow down, when I needed to breathe. And that has become a daily thing for me. And in fact, if I don't do it, I sort of start to fall back to not sleeping so well and snacking too much and being distracted. But all the practices together really brought me back to a very grounded place. And I think up till then, I mean, I had been doing yoga for 30 years on and off in different degrees. And, but I'd never really explored the connection to nutrition, nor did I do much pranayama, and my meditation practice had sort of fallen away about 10 years ago. And I feel like now at 60, that's what's really sustaining me. I'm not as interested in wrapping my leg around my head and, doing all sorts of gymnastics. I mean, I kind of wish I could, but I can't anymore. That's why I was getting injured, and that's why I stopped doing yoga for a while. But the practice I have now and that I've learned about through Nikki's class is a very balanced, centered, practical, achievable daily practice. And I don't really know what I would have done with it without it during COVID, because as for everybody else, things sort of unraveled during that time. And we had a lot of illness in our family in addition to the whole COVID situation going on. And as long as I could get to my mat every day for 20 minutes and I could do my breathing exercise at night for 15 minutes, I got through it. It was like, okay, in this moment, I'm okay. I'm going to get through this. And that's what day by day, little by little, sort of, step by step, I made it through in not only a whole way, but in a much better way than when I started, like than I even imagined my health could be.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So would you say, if you had to, I mean, we've done so many different things over the course of the year, and you've gone through each of the seasons, and we've covered body, breathing, mind, and diet. But if you had to boil it down, like, are there one or two practices or one or two tools that have been the most transformative for you?
I would say the breathing and the body, the nutrition part really helped. Like, I mean, I've been aware, and I would say in the past I'm a good eater, but I suddenly was eating not just for the general good. I was eating for what worked for my dosha and what worked for my particular metabolism and my particular lifestyle and seasonally. And that made a huge difference. It just sort of took the edge off everything. Like, I was suddenly eating to really nourish on a deeper level, not just for taste and you know, I've never been concerned about weight, so it was never for weight, but it was like I was suddenly nourishing like at a soul level. Like, so I think that was really helpful, and it was also broken down in a way, again, that was very understandable, because I've one time tried to take an Ayurvedic class and it just felt so big, like I'm never going to be able to do all that. But the way you run your classes, everything was like, well, how about trying this today and see how that goes for a week, and try this the next day. And the other thing, like I said, was the breathing. I almost, like, when I started doing it and I started going from being a complete insomniac to immediately sleeping through the night, my husband said, I think that's all in your head. And I, as I said to you before, I don't even care if it's all in my head. It's working. Like, it really works to ground and to use these principles of breath to change your whole
Nervous system.
to change your whole nervous system.
And it's the principles of the universe and the elements that you're simply applying to your unique composition of elements.
And you helped also not just with the techniques, but sort of helping us to look at, so when are you going to do it? Are you going to do it this time or that time? And sort of realizing that in my life, I went to bed with my phone, which was crazy. So now I go to bed with my breath, and I sleep better, and I don't, have all those rambling thoughts all night, and I wake up rested. And that's kind of a miracle, if you ask me.
Well, thank you so much, Lori, for being an amazing student and for sharing this little bit of information, because for some people, I think they need to hear from someone, who's been through it, what the benefits are, and that it's worth your time and energy, because it's a commitment. It's definitely something that you decide you're going to do and put the time and energy into yourself. So thank you for talking with me.
Well, I wanted to add one more thing, because I think this is an important part of your class that may get overlooked, and that is that it's also a community, and you brought together really special women who, in sharing what they were going through, I learned so much and took so much in for myself to sort of understand, and there was just a beautiful communication and connection that I didn't think you can get on Zoom. And I really look forward to seeing their faces every week, and I'll be very sad when, the class is over and I don't see them.
You're right. It's an amazing connection, and the group experience, everybody just supports each other, and it just makes it that much deeper than just doing it on your own.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.